As you know, October is National Bullying Prevention Month. And we thought it would be a good time to see this. We have some resources for families and parents. I think Will Nesbitt is in the audience. Wait, there he is. Okay, hi, Will. And Will is going to be in the lobby if anybody is upset or would like to talk about what they saw. He's here to do that. And what I'd like to do now is introduce Paul again, and let's ask him the big question: why did you make the movie? Gotta turn it on. Works better that way. Needs 3 seconds. Okay.
Hello. Well, there you have it. I was unable to introduce a picture, so I had some things to say. I want to thank
I forgot
Barbara. That's okay. I want to thank Barbara, who's just done a terrific job making all this happen, and the Napa Valley School District. This is a film that was art meets advocacy, and what I mean by that is we made a film. We wanted it to be entertaining, like a John Hughes movie, like a Breakfast Club film, where it deals with, teenagers that feel disenfranchised, but you can also have fun. So, that's the art, and now the panel here will talk a little bit more about the advocacy. I want to thank Alex here, who is really... 3 seconds.
3 seconds.
Who's just amazing and just did such a heartfelt job and funny and he worked really, really hard for this. Everybody did. Everybody that was involved in the making of this movie. We made this movie for nothing, and we attracted Mira Sorvino. We attracted Michael T. Williamson, our DP. Greg Gardner shot the movie Elf. It doesn't get better than that. So everyone was like-minded. Our investors were all like-minded. They wanted to make a film that was fun and entertaining, and they wanted to make a film that dealt with, today's pandemic, on teens taking their lives, teen suicide, and also bullying. So we all came together. I view everybody in here as being someone who has also and is also a part of this movie. And the people that watch this film, we're all, my company, The Power of Us Entertainment, it's about the collective. And as a collective, we can all get together and we can all make something successful and meaningful and have a message. So that was going to be my intro to the film. And now here's Butter. We get to see it again.
I would like to thank Shauna Wagner, who worked so hard and gave me my instructions that clearly said, and invite Paul to introduce the film. But she knows I'm hopeless. So apologies for that.
You're not hopeless. You've just been amazing pulling this off. 3 seconds.
Thank you. Alex, this was your first big role. This was your first big role. How'd you get the part?
By being the cheapest one available.
I doubt that.
No, my agents...
No, he was really cheap.
It's only a half-truth. No, my agent sent me the audition, and I just saw, your character's name is Butter, the movie's called Butter, so don't screw it up. And I didn't do any actual preparation like I normally do for this audition. I had my girlfriend, now wife, was just reading lines to me and making sure I didn't screw it up. And then somehow, in some way, I impressed the casting director, Tanis, and Paul to have me come do additional scenes and screen test with other actors. Actually, Michaeli, who plays Anna, and Jake, who plays Jeremy, were at the screen test, and they're amazing people. I know Jeremy was kind of a dick in the movie. Jake is amazing.
It's funny. He when he was a teenager, he was obese.
He was.
And now he, is.
Now he's in.
So he really could relate to the part of Butter. And,
absolutely.
you know, Alex just jumped through hoops and just worked so hard to get this part. It wasn't an easy part to get, and you know, because it carries a movie. How many people can carry a movie, you know? And he nailed it.
So, Jeni, lots of kids feel disenfranchised. There are so many ways in which we can feel disenfranchised going through puberty and middle school and high school. It's not an easy time. What advice do you have for kids who are feeling that way?
So, can you hear me? Is this working? Okay, good.
The only one that gets the mic to work. Right?
I turned it on after you guys. I saw you
That's
fumbling.
okay.
I'm like, I'm going to get prepared.
It's Hollywood types. Don't.
Yeah.
Technology hard.
So, you know, what I saw in the film with Butter is that Butter had all the pieces. He had something that made his soul sing. He had a hobby, which he loved and he was really good at. He had people who cared about him. You know, his mom, his dad didn't really show it, but and his mom was a little codependent, obviously. But, you know, he had a doctor and a music coach and a couple of friends who identified with him and who he could reach out to, and he didn't. So I think that something really beautiful has been happening in Napa County and around the country as this global, of the other global epidemic with, you know, suicide ideation and depression and anxiety in teens, is that we're normalizing the conversation about mental health. You know, you go to any middle school and high school now and you see on social media that there's this conversation that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to struggle. And it's okay to ask for help, the most important piece. So I think it's really important that our young people, disenfranchised, I honestly feel like all teens are at risk in some way because of the struggles, the pressure today to be perfect and to be good enough. And I think, you know, knowing that it's okay to ask for help is you know, the key here, right?
Yeah, it's having the conversation. And sometimes, you know, I know with teenagers, they can feel embarrassed to talk to anybody about it. They feel sort of very secluded and maybe intimidated by going to an adult. Maybe their parents will be mad at them and they don't know what to do. But it's just about having a conversation. You know, we did our movie and we were vetted by seetheawkward.org, and it deals with their commercials, and their videos are two very awkward teenagers just kind of sitting with each other, and they're looking at each other, and they both, you know, then this guy pops up out of the cushions and says, "Is this you and your friend?" Well, talk, ask if you're okay. Are you okay? So it doesn't have to be as deep as going into, if that's going to intimidate you, just ask your friend, are you okay? And just opening up that conversation can really blossom into them really feeling safe, you know, to share themselves and to share what they're feeling, and it could definitely save a life.
Absolutely, absolutely. You hit it right on the head. I completely agree with you. But it's for everybody, not just teenagers. Like, I recently started seeing a therapist for my own personal reasons because I deal with depression much like Marshall. And I was hesitant to go into it for whatever reason. I don't know why, in hindsight, that I was just stubborn or just didn't want to or was just lazy, whatever reason you want to pick. But it has significantly helped me. I've only gone a few sessions here and there, but it actually is improving my mental health. So, bottom of my heart, bottom of my feet, bottom to whatever. If you have an opportunity to see a counselor, a therapist, psychologist, a friend, uncle, camp counselor, like whatever, talk to somebody. Just trust me, it helps.
It's also, I'd like to say that, you know, if your brain is an organ, and if you have a heart condition, you'll go and you'll see a doctor. If you have a lung condition, you will go and you will see a doctor. And your brain is just another organ. So if you're having issues with your brain and it's putting you in pain, you go see a doctor. So, you know, if you can just look at it that way, there is nothing wrong with just having a conversation. So that's, you know, turn it back over to you.
And we're
Kersting.
very proud that in Napa, we do have wellness centers at our middle schools and high schools, and they are used. I always visit them when I'm on campus, and there are kids who are there. And they're there mostly for things that they want to talk about rather than being physically ill. So I have lots more questions, but you may have some questions, and we want to give you the opportunity. So if there's something you would like to ask anybody who is up here, we have microphones on either side. Please feel free to come up, and I will keep talking while you're doing that, because I have more questions. So, Alex, tell us about the bodysuit you wore in the film, and what did that mean to you? And you can come up while I'm talking.
You know, don't need to be shy, guys. I don't bite. I'm vaccinated. I won't spit on you, I promise.
I think when you said that, you got a little spittle in my eye.
I didn't say you'd be out of the splash zone. I said they would be. See, I told you. No, the bodysuit was interesting, to say the least. It was kind of cool because it was made by the guy who did the Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters, the original, not the ones that are attacking Paul Rudd in the trailer right now. And it was really cool because I'm a huge fan of the movie. But it was kind of heavy, like I want to say maybe 30 pounds or so at least, and wearing that for 20 plus days, running around in it, sweating. It was uncomfortable to say the least, but it was kind of interesting for me mentally because I'd never actually been physically 400 pounds. I've never been anywhere close to it. But being in there and seeing it, it puts something into perspective. It puts your own physical health into perspective, and I think it's actually helped me start the process of losing weight. I know it's a struggle for me for several reasons, but I think it certainly helped in that aspect.
Okay, and do you really play the sax?
Not nearly as well as Butter. I learned to play for the movie. I can probably hold one or two notes, but if you were expecting me to play Anna's song, you're going to be sadly disappointed.
It's the illusion of movie making.
Oh, it's wonderful. That's why we're here. We
believe-
have a question.
It's kind of a stupid question, but did you really have to eat a stick of butter?
No, that's not a stupid question. We're all thinking that.
That is not a stupid question. You have no idea how many people have asked me that question. I've got coworkers, I've got relatives. Did you actually eat that stick of butter? I think we went through maybe 20 sticks the entire shoot. I luckily had a spit bucket, so I never actually ate a full stick all in one sitting, but I probably total amount, at least half a stick, just because I couldn't spit everything out because it was melting under the hot lights, and I had basically a death grip on it so I wouldn't drop it for a couple takes. Yeah, so it ruined popcorn for me for a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. I don't recommend it, but...
Don't try it at home, anybody.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine, you're fine. He made me do it on my first day there.
I was like, more butter, more butter. You know, when I was prepping the movie, the question was, were we going to use real butter or were we going to create something? And my props people created something out of a gelatin, and it sort of looked like butter. And so we sat down and I did a test, and I just said, listen, if I'm going to ask an actor to eat some butter, I have to eat some butter. So I did the test on the pudding and some other things, and it just didn't have the right consistency. It just didn't look right from a distance. It looked like a stick of butter. And so I ate some butter. And I said, you know what? If I can do this, we can figure out a way to do a spit bucket. And I asked Alex, I said, would you be willing to do that? And he agreed, and it really worked. And listen, we wanted that butter scene to be really, really uncomfortable for people to watch.
And it was.
And we wanted to push the envelope, and that's what we got.
I mean, I know people who've eaten, like, butter on purpose, but I don't know. Yeah, bye.
First time I
Bye.
saw
Thank
that,
you for coming up and
Thank you
asking a
for coming up.
question.
Yeah.
Anybody else can come up and ask questions, anecdotal questions, questions about, mental health. Jeni is here. I know Barbara's going to ask some more questions.
Right, so Jeni, social media plays a very prominent role in this film, and for the parents here, we didn't grow up with social media. So we did grow up with bullying, it's always been here, but it's so magnified by social media. How can we help our kids to use social media for good and not allow it to be evil?
I think as parents with kids, when they're at the age where they just start getting social media, it's really important to monitor them, to monitor what they're seeing, to make sure that you're following them and they're following you and you can see the activity on social media, and teach healthy habits for social media use. Limit time is a really big one. I think that even my older teens that I work with and Teens Connect, they've realized that their mental health is better when they limit their own time on social media. And so that's something we discuss and we talk about. I think there's this danger on social media that that young people glorify, eating disorders and drug use and social media use and selfies and all those things. And you've all heard that social media is really somebody's highlight reel and not real life. So I think to the teens in the crowd, use social media for good. There's a lot of really good stuff on there. There's a lot of mental health sites and kindness sites and good stories happening that you can share, and you can perpetuate the goodness instead of amplifying and perpetuating the bad stuff. I think it's also really important to be authentic on social media for the young people in the audience and not try and be something you're not, or try too hard to get approval or to really care about those likes. It's really about being yourself. There's a movement, it's happening, where people are wanting to see real life and wanting to see people share their stories about, it was a hard day today. I'm going to practice some self-care. I'm going to, turn off my phone and go take a bath or something. That's happening more and more. So there's a lot of good happening on social media, and I just think limiting it and finding that good and perpetuating and really honoring. And as far as bullying goes, when you see bullying happening on social media, there's a term called an upstander versus a bystander. So a bystander is someone who sees bullying happen and doesn't do anything about it. An upstander is somebody who sees bullying happen and stands up for what's happening, takes a stand, speaks out. It takes a lot of courage to do that, and strength comes in numbers. So if you want to make change, or you want to be the change on social media, and you see bad stuff happening, post kindness, post good things, speak up against what's happening, what's the negative things that are happening, and include your friends in that. Start a movement. Join a club at school that's anti-bullying or pro-kindness. It's happening, and it's our young people that are making that change. It's really powerful.
Yeah, you can also go to standup.org, which is it's a great org, and if you see a kid being picked on, really stand up. If you do nothing, are you part of it? Are you allowing this to happen? Step up. If you see a kid who feels unpopular and they're eating lunch alone in the cafeteria, if you go and you sit down with that kid and you ask them, what's your favorite music? Who's your favorite musician? Do you like chocolate ice cream? What's your favorite show? You're going to find a common bond with that kid, and all of a sudden, that kid is no longer the strange kid. That kid is someone who's a really interesting person, just like you, And bullying used to just be on the schoolyard. Now bullying, because of social media, it's everywhere. And I ask that, kids just don't partake in it. And they don't, they stand up. Everything's gone on with Facebook and Instagram now. And the study came out last week that 1 in 3 teenage girls are body shamed on social media. 1 in 3 are body shamed. It's a problem. And social media is addictive. I'm on my Facebook. I'm on my Instagram. And so I know what it's like. And it becomes popular in school, and it's a tough battle. And but again, with the parents, it does come down to teaching kindness. kids follow what their parents do. You lead by example.
And more importantly, they follow what their peers do. So
Yes,
really
they
being the
do.
change among your peer group. And I will share one more thing. If you can't stand up and you're scared of a bully, you can report any kind of bullying locally to tip 411, and you will leave an anonymous tip and share information, and that incident will be followed up on. So if you can't stand up to bullying happening, you can report it. You can also report on Instagram or social media if you see something like somebody's threatened suicide or somebody is really struggling.
Yeah.
You can report it, and they'll follow up and send resources and check in on that person.
Always.
Yeah, and
Always.
you can
If you feel
also-
a friend or someone is
Yeah.
depressed to the point where they're thinking about it, contact somebody, because you'll be saving a life.
And there's all these numbers up here, your school counselor, social worker, wellness center, local agencies, and then the hotlines that you can call for help as well.
And if you see that kid sitting by him or herself in the lunchroom or wherever, and you feel self-conscious going by yourself to sit there, that you'll be shamed, get a friend. 2 of you can go. There's power in numbers, and that way everybody will feel more comfortable.
My name is Aisha, and first of all, I really enjoyed this movie, and I'm really thankful to Jeni, Barbara, and all of you guys to start this conversation in our school district. So my question is, is Mentis partnering up with school district, because social media is part of all our kids' life now. They are studying online. So are you guys planning to teach our kids in school social media ethics and having healthy boundaries and how much time we spend at the school? So that's my question.
That's a great question, Aisha. We won't be teaching that because we are in the schools with our prevention programs. We do talk about it in our wellness cafes and our programs that we run in the middle and high schools. We talk about the dangers of social media. We talk about, everything you've mentioned, but that's a great idea for it to be something that is in the curriculum. I know some teachers really promote, social media breaks, social media, limiting social media.
If anything, it could be an umbrella of just a class about, kindness and social interaction.
Yeah,
and then it could be, that's sort of part of that overall discussion.
There's some
And
great...
the county office has a whole prevention department, and we do have people who will come into classrooms and talk about bullying and why it's not a good idea. And I also worry, we always think about bullying in terms of the victim, but I also think about it in terms of the bullies, because some of them may spend a lifetime regretting what they've done. We don't always use the best judgment when we're young, but later they will realize, and if Butter had not been saved, that would be something that they would pay for too forever.
Yeah, I have a story there. There are stories out there when bullies are older, they reach out to the kid that they bullied and they apologize. But also the bullies are coming from a bad place. They're depressed, they feel disenfranchised, they feel that they don't belong, and so they have to bully their way into feeling superior over the other kids. And so they're kind of dealing with their own stuff. I was bullied in school by this kid named Kip. Didn't call me to apologize. But then I kind of had to ask myself when I was writing this, have I ever been a bully? And I was like, of course I've never been a bully. I was a great kid, and I was friendly with everybody. Then I kind of thought, I go, you know what? There was this kid next door to me named Steven Schwartz, who was very odd, very odd kid, and, he would get teased, and, we walked to our junior high school, and I remember, then there was a hedge, along this house, and they had these little berries on it, and he would walk, 20 feet ahead of me, and I would throw berries at his back and at his feet. And then I thought, I'm a total bully. I was a total bully. I didn't get into his face and I'm going to beat you up on the schoolyard bully, but I had bullied this kid, and I looked him up on Facebook, and I sent him a note. I said, are you the Steven Schwartz that grew up in Brentwood, that went to Pally High, Brentwood Elementary? And he said, yes. He says, were you my neighbor Paul, and are you still the same? And I said, listen, I'm contacting you because I want to apologize. And he accepted my apology. We're Facebook friends. We like each other's photos. He's an engineer. He's a genius. So I've kind of lived both sides of the story. But I
You know-
wasn't a bad bully.
Even Butter says when Anna's friend, is mean to her, he says maybe she's in pain too. So your character related to the bully's pain, somebody who was mean to somebody else because you felt the pain. And, it really touched me when you shared about how, and I hear this with teens I work with, that they don't necessarily want to die. They just want the pain to stop, right? And it's that pain,
Yeah.
the cause of, the bullying, the cause of the victim, the cause of whatever's happening. It's that pain that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I'd like to kind of talk about Be Here Now. Be Here Now, is a hashtag that was started by this guy named Kevin Hines. And Kevin Hines was a gentleman, when he was 19 years old, he wanted to take his own life. And what he did is that he jumped off of a bridge, and he survived. And he researched everyone. There were 29 people that had jumped off of this bridge and survived. And they formed this group called Be Here Now. All of them, the second they jumped off and were in free fall, regretted what they did. All 29 of them. And it's like there's a line in here, don't cheat yourself out of your future life. And so if you're down and if you're depressed and you're like, it's like I just want to turn off the light because it's painful. Sometimes that emotional pain is just so deep. This guy Kevin, he said something very powerful. Someone asked him, what would you say to someone who was thinking about taking their life? And he just looked at him and he said, stop. Just stop. And I thought, like, if someone thinks about taking their life and then they hear that, they hear Kevin's voice saying, stop, and it's like, wait till tomorrow. Just go home, go to sleep, wait till tomorrow. You're not going to be in that singular moment of pain where you just want to end it quickly and then take the next step and talk to a friend or reach out to one of these organizations.
And one last question, because it's a school night and it's almost 8:30.
Being someone who grew up with dealing with family issues and bullying in school, unfortunately I was suicidal in high school. What are the signs that we can look for to help our peers or even our children to try to prevent that from happening?
Great question.
So the signs that parents can look for, I think Butter's mom noticed the signs. She noticed things were not okay. Any kind of behavioral changes, any kind of emotional changes, any kind of erratic behavior, all of a sudden, giving away prized possessions is one thing I was just thinking, but any kind of change in behavior that's not typical. Something I teach a curriculum called QPR Suicide Prevention, and the signs that they outline include, sudden interest or disinterest in religion, giving away prized possessions, erratic change in behavior, anything that's just different, loss of appetite, loss of energy, being tired all the time, any kind of change or shift in behavior. I think with parents, you also have that intuition built in. You know when something's not right with your child. And it's really important if you get to that point and you notice that to ask the question, are you thinking of hurting yourself? That's the question I think so many, Butter's parents never asked the question. His teacher, his doctor never asked the question. That's a really important piece here, is to ask the question and then listen and then offer support and connect to resources. So once you've asked the question, you've opened up the mental health conversation. I think that's the key piece. I know my older son struggles with depression and anxiety disorder, and early on we normalized asking, how are you doing mentally? How's your mental health? So that when he wasn't feeling well, he could say, I'm not feeling well mentally, my head doesn't feel right. And we could then have the conversation. So I think there's a lot of stigma breaking that we continue to need to do around this conversation. Doctors, teachers, friends, this is very important for young people to know how to ask the question, how to recognize the signs that somebody may be in crisis, and then how to ask the question, because often with young people, they'll go to their friend before they'll go to an adult.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with asking the question. You need to ask the question.
You need to ask be direct and ask the
You need to
question.
say, are you okay? And then it starts off, I'm sorry, and then it starts off with you're okay, and then it's, are you depressed? And then it's, have you thought about taking your life? And I think the next one is, have you thought how you would take your life? So you can figure out how deep into this they really are, but just talk about it. Just talk about
There's
the
a great,
conversation.
there's a great website called suicidispreventable.org, and it clearly lists the signs that you go through to ask if somebody's okay, and then connect them to support.
Okay, I lied. There's one last question.
Hi, I just wanted to know if the movie is based on a true story.
The movie's based on a book called Butter, and it's the curriculum at some schools, and it's a book that I found on Amazon, and I just fell in love with the idea and all that stuff. But it's a very good question, and go read the book. The book expands a lot further than what we were allowed to make in 90 minutes.
It's a great book. So we'll all be in the lobby. If on the way out you would like to stop and ask questions of any one of us. Also, if you'd like to give me your reaction to the movie, I would really like to hear it. And even better, I'd like to make a little video of you. So thank you for coming. Paul, just one last thing. What's next for Butter?
February 25th, it's going to be released in the big cities, Chicago, New York, LA, San Francisco. It's a little film. We're trying to get our grassroots efforts going and trying to get people into the movie theaters, because we feel that when people start seeing it, we can add more and more theaters. So if you hear about it, February 25th in San Francisco, ask your friends to go see it. Our Instagram account is The Movie Butter, or you can look up Butter's Final Meal. You go to buttersfinalmeal.com. The actual website that he uses is actually our movie website, buttersfinalmeal.com. And thank you all for coming. And yes, I would love to interview people outside if they'll.
And you saw it here first. So thank you for coming and have a very good evening.